The garden is now producing many cucumbers, and I planted two different kinds this year. I planted picklers, which are these little guys, and I planted also regular slicing cucumbers. We like pickles, and I thought it would be fun to try to make some half sour pickles. These are fermented pickles, and they are not processed. They will be refrigerated once they have fermented for about 4 days. And I'm going to start by having a very clean quart jar. Into that I have put some washed dill down in the bottom, and I'm going to add garlic, and these are from my fresh garlic that we just harvested, and I have 3 cloves that have been sliced in half, and I'm going to add a pinch of red pepper flakes and a number of squeezes up to about a ½ teaspoon of cracked black pepper. These will be the seasonings. So we'll just kind of watch and see when we think we have about a ½ teaspoon. You could measure it, crack out the pepper onto wax paper and measure it, but I think this will be good enough for seasoning. Then we need to pack the pickles, and I'm going to pack those tightly into the jar. Some of them are a little oddly shaped, so we'll put in as many as we can and try to get them packed in fairly tight. It helps if you have a wide-mouthed jar. I did not have a wide-mouthed jar, so we'll just use what we have. And I am not going to be able to get all of them in here, I don't think. But maybe we can get one more in. Nope, we cannot do that. So those will have to go into another jar later on. I want to make a brine. I have 1 cup of hot water, and I'm going to add salt. And I need to get my tablespoon. And you want to use either kosher or pickling salt. And one would think salt is salt, but that isn't the case. Table salt has an additive in it to keep it from caking in the salt shaker, so that when you shake it, you get salt to come out. The kosher salt and pickling salt do not have this. There are several brands of kosher salt. Sea salt doesn't have the additive either. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of this diamond crystal salt to a cup of 1 cup of warm water. And I did use filtered water. I have a water filter. You probably don't want to add water that's heavily chlorine. So even bottled water would work if that's what you have, if you have a lot of chlorine in your water. But back to salt. Another brand of kosher salt is Morton's. And because of the different particle sizes, you would use different amounts of the salt to get the same amount of saltiness in your brine for the pickles. I used 2 tablespoons of the diamond crystal. If I were using Morton, I would use 1 tablespoon plus 2 teaspoons. If I were using pickling salt, which is labeled pickling salt, I would use 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon. Again, you need less if you have smaller particle sizes. I'm stirring this around to dissolve the salt in the warm water, and then I'm going to stir in a cup of cold water, and that is the brine that we're making to cover these pickles. And I'm going to pour it on, and I want it to cover them over the top. Now, they have a tendency to want to float, and you don't want them to float. So before we cover it, I'm going to put a glass, a small juice glass, filled with water on top, and this will hold them down into the brine. Then I can cover the whole thing with a piece of cheesecloth and a rubber band. You don't want to cap these tightly because as they ferment, going to form bubbles of carbon dioxide that need to escape. So you don't want to blow up your jar, which it possibly could do. And so we were going to set this aside for 4 days and check it each day and make sure that the pickles are being covered with the brine. And if you need to make more brine, you may, to add it to the top to make sure it's completely covered. Then in 4 days, test your pickles. If they have a lot of mold or the fluid is really cloudy, then something has gone wrong and you probably need to start over with another batch and try to figure out what did go wrong. If you can put these in a cool place, it would be desirable, but given the weather we've had here in Norfolk lately, a cool place probably isn't going to happen, at least not the one that they would like to see, which is around 65 degrees. Most of us are a little warmer than that, but I'll find the coolest place in the house that I can and let these sit in the dark for the 4 days. Again, checking them daily to see that they look good. If you see the mold or lots of cloudy liquid or they start to smell really terrible, you know something's gone wrong and you can just add them to your compost. After 4 days, taste one and see if it is half sour and tastes like the ones you get at the deli. And if it is, and it's the way you like it, you can cap the jar and put it in the refrigerator. That will stop any fermentation further from happening. If you want it to ferment a little more, leave it out for another day. But after about 5 days, you probably should cap them and put them in the refrigerator. So that's how you make half sour pickles. And hopefully we'll have some nice deli pickles by the end of the week.